Hey guys, this is Sam's a Geek, and today is just going to be a vlog on what's been going on and why I haven't been making as many videos, and also why I don't think you should really work for free if you can avoid it. So, a long time ago, I saw articles by all these journalists saying how you shouldn't work for free and that working for free is bad and all this stuff. And I disagreed with them a lot then because I was working for free almost all the time. And I still kind of disagree with them, but at the same time I can see way more where they're coming from. Now here's the thing. If you work for free, people won't respect you. That's just simply how it is. And one of the reasons why I stopped doing video game coverage as much as I used to is because basically I was losing way more money than I was gaining on it. Throughout my whole career, starting working at the newspaper and working through Freezecracker and all that stuff, and I'm counting video games as compensation as well, I may have made only about $7,000, whereas I've probably spent about $10,000 on the hobby. And, there's all kinds of returns on investment that can come from it, but at the same time, you do end up spending a lot of money. For instance, at one of the jobs, I was expected to pay for the video game, and then they would only give me $50 for the article. So I would lose $10 on each article that I get published. But it would be experience. However, in the long run, I should have really made them pay for the game, or they should have, contracted with video game developers to obtain the game for free, and then I could have done it. Later on in my career, I realized that you could get video games for free if you ask for them. But the company I worked for at the time didn't know that, or didn't want to go through the effort to establish that. And that's one thing you got to know, is that you got to respect yourself. Don't lose money on a review. Whatever you do, don't lose money. If you get the game for free and they want you to do the review for free, then that's a little different. But me having to spend $10 on a review, that was unacceptable, and I did that for at least 20 reviews. So that's $200 down the drain. And, there's a lot of things in life where you just got to measure whether it's worth it or not to continue with what you're doing based on financial income. And looking throughout my video game career, the little money I've made from videos that were directly tied to the industry did not make up for the money I actually made. I actually made a lot more money doing videos on Halo Reach and Fallout, two things I really cared about, and people could tell I was really cared and passionate about those games, than I made on games I got for free, or games I was asked to review, or games I paid for to review. So it made little sense to actually do the networking and all that stuff I had to do, the hell I had to go through just to do those things. I mean, the networking actually paid off because I actually got a lot of connections so I could, do stuff independent of those organizations. But the money itself that I made directly off there, it wasn't worth the effort. I probably could have done stuff differently and made more money. But it's not just about money, people will say. It's all about passion. And I had to weigh whether pursuing a video game journalism career was worth the money and the passion. If the passion was worth the money I would be getting. Now, to get at a big publication like IGN and all that stuff, it's almost as difficult to get in as the NFL. It really is. And you have to spend a lot of time networking, a lot of time going to E3 and all this stuff just to get in the door, just to get as a freelancer, and then let alone an editor. And then if you do finally get into the door, you're going to be making what, $40,000, $50,000 to live in the most expensive city in the nation, San Francisco, California. So that means you're not going to be able to live in San Francisco, California. You're going to have to move to somewhere like Oakland, which is a little bit dangerous and a commute, so you're going to be wasting money on driving. Which means you're probably going to have to roommate with people, and you're probably going to have to make a bunch of other compromises just for this job. And personally, I was taking a look at it, and I was thinking in my mind, and I was thinking, it's just not worth the job to go through that process. And the ultimate end goal is to work long enough as a journalist that you're so respected in the video game industry that someone will hire you as a public relations person. Because that's the end goal of most journalists. Because basically once you're in PR, you're going to be making way more money than you did as a journalist, and you may actually be able to afford to live in the city that you're working in. So ultimately I looked at that business plan and I said, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I just don't think, I think I love doing video game reviews, but as a side thing, as a freelance thing, as a part-time, venture. And, there are benefits to working for free. Don't get me wrong. There are. And I'll give you an example. This summer, I was working for free on a campaign. I was an intern. And that internship eventually led into a job because of how good I was at my internship. And that is an example of where working for free can get you a job. And then that job will be able to pay off too. But it's all about budgeting and it's all about thinking. You see, I also spent money during that internship because I was using it as a class. You see, a practicum in business is a class that you can have, and basically you pay the college and they'll consider your time at the internship a class, which means I got credit. So it did pay off in the sense that that's 3 less credits I had to take in college, and then I also got a job out of it. And then at that job, the job was flexible enough where I could squeeze in 2 more classes while working the job and while making money. So I made money, I got more of my classes done, and that's what working for free got me. I was able to accomplish that. But you also have to realize limitations. Like, for example, at the job, I had to move for this job, which means I had to pick somewhere where I would make money. Because I didn't want to lose money on this venture. So I found an apartment, a little house, a little house that I could rent out. And that would rent out for the specific time period that would only cover for the job. And it did it at a low enough price that I would still be making money after rent. So I did that. And then I also made sacrifices too by not eating out and only eating stuff like potted meat and bologna and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's what I was eating. And a lot of my coworkers were not making money. They were actually losing money on this venture because they were going out to eat at good places. They were going, they were doing all these excessive things that they were losing money on. So you have to remember on how to budget yourself accordingly when you're doing all this stuff. And if you don't have budgeting experience, it could really hurt your bottom line. So you just have to remember time and experience and money. And don't be afraid to take classes and become a bit of a social recluse while you're pursuing these ventures. For instance, during the job where I had to move and stuff, I was also taking 2 classes. My life probably would have been a bit easier in terms of time management if I didn't take those 2 classes. But my job itself would have been more difficult if I had not taken those 2 classes. Because in those 2 classes, I learned how to do my job better because they happened to align, because I was a project manager in this job, pretty much. And I was learning organizational behavior and project management in class. And I just used the skills that I learned in class, applied them to my job, and I was able to perform way more efficiently than I thought possible. And if it wasn't for those 2 classes, I think I may have not been able to complete the job as good as I wanted to do it. So I was able to do as good as I intended to do it. And I owe that completely towards my classes I took at the university. Because if I did not take those classes, I really think I would have suffered in my job performance. But at the same time, some days I was staying up till midnight, or sometimes even 1 o'clock in the morning, just doing and finishing homework for those classes. So it's all about cost and benefit. And, it would have been so much easier on my, basically on my mental, not my mental health, but I would have been more relaxed and I could have a lot more time, and maybe I could have gone out and done something with people that I knew in the area if I had that time, between 9 o'clock when I got off work and 1 o'clock in the morning to do something else. But instead dedicating that to homework, I was able to gain skills that allowed me to do my job more effectively. And it also helped towards my degree, which I'm now going to graduate in fall. Whereas if I took no classes, like a lot of people recommended I do during this job, if I took no classes, it would have cost me probably a whole nother semester, which is time I don't really want to spend on education. And I had a job during the beginning of this year too, and I had a full schedule of classes. And, there are consequences for filling up your schedules of working full-time and going to school full-time. For instance, I have 2 B's in these classes, and I don't think I'm going to be able to bring them up to A's. And I'm usually striving for a 4.0. I'm just that way. I want to be a 4.0 student. But I'm not going to meet that goal this time around because I stressed myself out by having a full-time job and a full-time, school schedule. However, the money I made off that job and the networking I made off that job was well worth the small GPA loss that I'll probably have due to what the job entailed. So you just have to learn to balance it. So if you can be if you want to pursue a video game career, if you want to be a video game journalist, I highly recommend freelancing. Freelancing will allow you to earn a little bit of money, work for big companies, but still allow you to work on your goals. You see, when I first started trying to be serious about this stuff, my grades were suffering. I go look at my transcript, it was like B's and C's. And my grades were suffering pretty badly because I was focusing so much time on networking and doing stuff for this side hobby. But when I put school as a priority, because I said, you know what, maybe living in Oakland with roommates is not what I want to have an outcome of my life. Maybe I should refocus on school since I'm going to school for management and figure out, just put a bunch more effort into that and put these 2 hobbies that I usually do to the side and still actively, be a part of them, but do them less and not focus as much on them. And that allowed me to become an A student, and I got on the Dean's List twice, and I graduated, and I have two associate's degrees, and I was only able to accomplish that as effectively as I did because I reprioritized my life. So my advice to you guys is to try to prioritize your life to where it's the best economical advantage to you, and you can still have fun. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you have different activities you can focus on. Because I know a lot of people who've made the mistake where they put all their eggs in the hobby that they have and have no backup plan. You see, if management doesn't work out, I still have 3 or 4 things that I have eggs in baskets in that I want to pursue if it doesn't work out. Whereas before, when maybe in the years 2010 or 11, when I wanted to make this my primary source of income and wanted to live off YouTube like a lot of people are trying to do now, I had no backup plan. It was just, I had a backup plan. It was college. But my GPA suffered so greatly, and if I continued on that course, I wouldn't have graduated with a 3.4 like I did. I probably would have graduated like I did in high school with a 2.8 or a 2.7, and it would have been a lot more difficult it would have been a lot more difficult to transfer out of that school, and I would have probably had to stick with that school, which had an unaccredited degree in the 4-year department. And then even if I did transfer out, that transcript is with you forever, especially the one which you graduated with. I can say in my early days that I was focused on other projects and stuff, but then I was able to pull it up. Like right now I have a 4.0 at my new school, and I did take some summer classes at my old school, so now I have like a 3.67 at the previous school. But if I did just continue the course the way I was going, I don't think I would be as happy as I am now. So, having the passion is good. Wanting to pursue your passion as a career is also good. but try to keep the way you want to live and the way you want to be as a priority as well. You know, do you really want to live in a apartment in a bad neighborhood with 4 people and do what you love, or do you want to do something that you're completely content with and live a very comfortable life and have a lot of free time and be able to do things you love outside of work? You know, it's just something that you're going to have to decide. But I highly recommend looking into other options. Don't just listen to life coaches and gurus that tell you to do what you love. Try to balance out what would be best for you and your potential family. All right, Samuel out.